Hello everyone, welcome to this training. This is Green, Digital Enterprise Solution Engineer. Today I will share with you some introduction of the latest firmware for M300 RTK and H20 series. As we know, M300 RTK and H20 series is our latest and flagship enterprise product. It is released in May this year. Till now, it's already about 4 months past, and during the past 4 months, it has been widely used in various industries globally. Our dealers, our customers also give us colorful feedback and requirements and some suggestions. At the same time, our RD is analyzing these requirements and update the firmware function to improve the product experience and also meet our customer requirements. The new firmware was just released at the end of last August, and today's training we will focus on how to upgrade the firmware into the latest. I will also share with you the upgrade guideline, and then in the next part I will present some of the new functions in the latest firmware. Because there are various functions in the new firmware, so I will divide it into 2 sections. Today I will just introduce the first section A, and I will share with you the rest section B on next week training. Okay, let's go on. At the beginning, let us have a brief overview of our product firmware release plan. It will be helpful for you to know our product and firmware evolution history, current status, and future function plan. Here is the release plan. When M300 RTK and H20 series is released in May, the firmware should be U0 or U2, and 1 month later we update the firmware and solve some RTK bugs and solve the fixed issue where RTK's positioning data is difficult to converge, or the convergence time is too long in some areas. At last month, the latest firmware is released with some performance optimization and the new function support. Of course, we are also planning and developing some new firmware. So if you have any good ideas, good requirements, good suggestions, please also feel free to contact us. You can communicate with the DJI sales engineer or solution engineer. They will collect and evaluate your requirement, your suggestions with ID. Maybe in the next firmware version, we will adopt them. For each firmware, we have a detailed release note for your reference. You can visit our official webpage, go to the download section of M300 RTK. There are many documents for your reference, and the release note must be there for you. In the release note, we list the detailed firmware version of each module, bug fixing issue, and the new released function. Here is a screenshot shows the aircraft remote controller Pilot app firmware version. For the accessories like RTK station, battery station, payload, and assistant tool, all the firmware versions are listed there. So you can refer to this release note and check your M300 RTK firmware version on DJI Pilot app and compare them together, and also can confirm whether your firmware is the latest. Of course, if your Pilot app is connected to the internet, the app will also promote some upgrade information for you on the HMS module. How to upgrade the firmware to the latest is always not very easy to understand or not very easy to do. So here I want to introduce how to quickly upgrade the firmware. That would be very helpful for your daily operation and maintenance. When we are talking about the firmware updating, we need to upgrade the firmware for many modules, and for different modules We could use different tools to upgrade. The tools can be DJI Pilot app and DJI Assistant tool for Matrice. If you have DJI Assistant tool for Matrice, you can upgrade the firmware for aircraft, remote controller, H20 series, and the RTK2 mobile station. You can also use DJI Pilot app to do the firmware upgrading operations for aircraft, remote controller, H20 series, battery station, and battery. And one more important tips for you: before you upgrade the firmware, please make sure the tool is already with the latest firmware. And you can upgrade DJI Pilot app directly using the remote controller with connecting to the internet. You can also download the latest DJI Assistant tool for Matrice on M300 RTK web page. From this page, we will know how to upgrade the firmware step by step. Here are some checklists. Firstly, open your DJI Assistant tool for Matrice on your laptop and make sure that it is already with the latest firmware version. Here, I also want to say that it must be the DJI Assistant tool for Matrice. If you use Assistant tool for Phantom, for Mavic, it will not work for these upgrade operations. We can also check the firmware version of DJI Assistant tool for Matrice. It should be v2.0.13. And if you use the old version, you may not find the new firmware information. That is why the latest DJI Assistant tool for Matrice is the first and also the important step for the firmware updating. For the accessories, you should also prepare the male-to-male USB cable. It can be used to connect the laptop with the remote controller. The USB Type-C cable is also very important and necessary when you use the DJI Pilot app and the remote controller to upgrade the firmware version for BS16 battery station. The battery level is also very important, so before you upgrade the firmware, make sure that you already fully charge the aircraft and remote controller. Of course, you can also check the battery status and level information on the DJI Pilot app. If the battery level is low, DJI Pilot app will promote the notification like remote controller battery less than 14%, unable to update firmware. Please replace or recharge the battery and try again. So this notification is very important and useful before you upgrade the firmware. As I introduced previously, there are two ways to upgrade the firmware for M300 RTK and H20 series. The first one is DJI Pilot app, and the second one is DJI Assistant tool for Matrice. Before this upgrade, we should power on the aircraft, power on the remote controller, link the aircraft with the remote controller together, and also need to mount the H20 series payload on board. It would be better if you have an SD card for H20 series. And during the upgrading operations, if you prefer to use DJI Pilot app, please also make sure your app can be well connected with the internet. Then you can go to check the HMS modules and find the system firmware version. There will be a list of firmware for each modulars, and it will be very easy to one-click and upgrade the firmware. If you are more familiar with the DJI Assistant tool for Matrice, you can log in with the DJI account and check the device list and also the firmware updating information on the software. Next, one-click the upgrade button. DJI Assistant tool will download the new firmware automatically and start the upgrading procedure. Here is a detailed procedure using DJI Pilot app to upgrade the system firmware. Firstly, at the left corner of DJI Pilot app, please make sure you can see the aircraft and H20 series information. That means all of them has been well collected, well communicated with remote controller and also the DJI Pilot app. And at the top right corner, there are many icons. Make sure that you can see the Wi-Fi icon, and the battery level should be more than 40%. Please also know that it just shows the battery level of built-in battery. And I also suggest you could prepare a WB37 external remote controller battery. It would be very helpful in some special and urgent conditions. As we know, DJI Pilot supports the HMS modular HMS function for M300 RTK. It can help us to check the system modular status and firmware version there. So we can click the HMS at the home page and go to check the firmware information. If the current firmware is very old and the new firmware is available, user can get an update notification. You can also scroll down and check the latest firmware information, read the release note, and find what's new in the latest firmware. There is one highlight if you want to use DJI Pilot app to do the upgrade. It supports one-click update function. It's very easy. Just in the firmware update page, you can check the firmware package volume and release note and firmware version. Then one click the update all button. DJI Pilot app will download the firmware from the internet automatically, and during the download procedure, you can check the progress and the downloading speed in real time. And there is also one important issue. During the firmware updating, please don't power off the aircraft and remote controller, and please also don't disable the DJI Pilot app. If there are multiple modules need to be updated, for example, aircraft, remote controller, H20 series, Pilot app, it supports to check the firmware version for all of the modules and just one click to update all of the firmwares. This is very useful and improves the updating efficiency. No need to upgrade the modules one by one. Once the firmware update is completed, we can get a notification on the DJI Pilot app. As this picture shows, we can see that it's already updated successfully. And we also suggest you can go to the HMS modular to double check the firmware version for all modulars and make sure there are no missing parts and all of the firmwares are the latest. And here is also a screenshot demo shows all of the firmware is new, and we can swipe up to check the detailed firmware version number of each modular. Of course, we can also use DJI Assistant 2 for matrice to update the firmware. Before the update, we can connect the laptop with the aircraft directly using the USB Type-C cable. And we can see that on the top side of the aircraft, there is a Type-C port for data communication. Another way is using USB male-to-male cable on one side for the laptop and another side to connect with the remote controller. Once you connect the laptop with the aircraft, DJI Assistant 2 for matrice will check the firmware information directly and automatically. So you can log in and overview the firmware update information. If there is a new firmware available, you can click upgrade to update the firmware. Besides, here are two demo images for your reference. We can see that there are two tabs. One tab is for the aircraft and another tab is for the payload. We can switch between the two tabs and click the upgrade button to upgrade the firmware for aircraft and panels one by one. After the upgrade is completed, user may get a notification like inconsistent firmware found. It is because you just upgrade the firmware for part of the modulars. For example, aircraft is the latest firmware. However, the remote controller may be still the old firmware version. And these two kinds of firmware version cannot match very well. For this case, please follow the instructions on the DJI Pilot app and sweep the bar and follow the instruction to solve the issue. Okay, till now we have already know how to upgrade the firmware step by step. So let's go to the second part, new feature introduction for the latest firmware. To be honest, there are many new functions in the new firmware, so today's training we cannot cover all of them. Here I will just present part of them, and the rest will be presented in section 2 on next week training. The first new feature I want to share with you is the on-demand mode of the laser rangefinder. As we know, H20 series has two editions, H20 and H20T. Both of them has been embedded with the laser rangefinder. It can detect the target within the range of 1,200 meters. And here is the working principle of laser rangefinder. You can see that it can emit the laser pulse. We call it as single out. This laser pulse can be reflected by the target and received by the laser rangefinder again. We call the reflectivity laser pulse as the signal in. Based on the time difference between the signal in and the signal out, the laser rangefinder could calculate the distance, the distance between the target and the laser rangefinder. So laser rangefinder can detect the distance in real time with high accuracy. Here is a demo shows how to use the laser rangefinder to detect target location. We just need to enable the ING button. The distance detected by the laser rangefinder can be shown on the DJI Pilot app in real time. At the same time, based on the detected distance, gimbal orientation, and aircraft GNS location, the target coordinates can be also calculated and displayed on the DJI Pilot app. This is a very useful and interesting function, but there is also one weakness and disadvantage point for this function in the old firmware. There is one case. If we turn off the ING, icon, we cannot see any target distance and coordinates information on the DJI Pilot app. However, in fact, the laser rangefinder is still working. It is still emitting the laser pulse, and this pulse cannot be detected by human eyes because the laser works on an invisible frequency, cannot be seen by human eyes, but it can be detected by the cameras, goggles, or some infrared sensors. So in this case, if we want to use it for the discrete and covert reconnaissance, the laser pulse may be noticed by suspects or criminals using the cameras or goggles. That is the weakness and the disadvantage of the firmware version. Here is a demo. We can disable the ING icon. In the zoom view, we cannot see any laser support, and if we switch to the light seeing mode, the laser support can be clearly displayed. So it demonstrates that the laser rangefinder works all the time. It can be easily detected. That is why we need to develop the on-demand mode of the laser rangefinder in the new firmware. Here is a guideline regarding how to enable the on-demand mode We just need to go to the camera view, click the menu, and go to the setting options. We can see there is an option of laser mode. We just need to single click and there will be two mode options, enhanced mode and on-demand mode. The enhanced mode is the same as the traditional mode. The laser rangefinder works all the time, even if the RNG icon is turned off. But for the new on-demand mode, the laser rangefinder is only working when we enable the RNG icon to trigger the distance detection. So on-demand mode can solve the weakness and disadvantage of the old firmware in discrete and convert reconnaissance applications. In the on-demand mode, we can still turn on the RNG icon for target distance and location detection, a smart track and pinpoint. The only difference with the traditional mode is that if we turn off the RNG icon, the laser rangefinder will also be disabled. So one suggestion for you, if you want to use the on-demand mode in some convert reconnaissance, we suggest that you don't turn on the RNG icon. Here is a demo for the on-demand mode. We can disable the RNG icon and go to the camera settings. You can see the laser mode. Firstly, we enable the enhanced mode. We go to the zoom view and enable the light scene. We can see there is a laser support. But if we enable the on-demand mode, we find the laser support disappears. And here are also two tips for you. If you restart the camera, the mode will be reset to the enhanced mode by default. And you need to manually enable the on-demand mode if it is necessary. In general, we recommend you to use the enhanced mode instead of the on-demand, because in the enhanced mode, the laser rangefinder works all the time. It can real-time detect the target distance, although the distance information is not shown on the DigiPanel app. But the real-time distance can be used to assist zoom camera to quickly adjust the focal length. That is also why M300 RTK can provide very smooth, very instant zoom experience in the AF mode. Another new function is customizable timestamp. In the old firmware version, the timestamp cannot be adjustable. It includes the aircraft mode, serial number, location, and time by default. So in some special case, it may not be very friendly to use. Here is a guideline of the new customized timestamp function. We just need to go to the H20 series camera view and tap the menus and the settings. You can see that there is a timestamp option. Here is the timestamp option. We just need one click to enable or disable this function. If we enable this function, we can see that there are many detailed setting options. It consists of the area mode, area serial number, date, time, coordinates, and attitude. We can also customize the text. Besides, it also supports to adjust the timestamp position on the image. It proposes 4 options: top left, bottom left, top right, and the bottom right. You can choose according to your actual requirements. Here I make a video to demo the customized timestamp. Firstly, we can go to the camera settings and enable the timestamp. We can switch the aircraft model, serial number, date, and time. We can also enable the coordinates and the altitude information. We can customize and input some text. For this timestamp, it is applicable for both image taking and video recording. It can be also applicable for the wide camera, zoom camera, and thermal camera. Here I can adjust the position the timestamp position on the image. We can find the samples. Next, I can record the video and also take the images. Now we can go to check the taken image. We can find that the timestamp is already in the image. Another new function is the infrared sign mode. It can support 3 kinds of mode: manual, default, and inspection. In the manual mode, we can adjust the parameters like DDE, contrast, and brightness. And based on adjusting these parameters, we can clearly highlight the target in the complex background. But for the default mode and the inspection mode, the DDE, contrast, and brightness is fixed, cannot be adjustable. Besides, for the inspection mode, we also propose some optimized algorithm to improve the image quality. Here I want to suggest that you can use the inspection mode for the power line inspections. Here is a demo how to adjust the DDE, contrast, and brightness for the thermal image. Firstly, we go to the manual mode. We can adjust the 3 parameters. We can find that based on these parameters adjusting, we can clearly highlight the targets. This function can help you easily to take high quality thermal images and videos, easily find the target in the complex background. For example, if you want to use the thermal function to track suspects in the light, so you can adjust this mode to clearly find and track them. Another new function is sunburn protection for the infrared camera sensor. As we know, the infrared sensor of thermal camera is very sensitive. It can convert very weak light into the digital image. If the light intensity is very strong, it may cause the overvoltage, overcurrent of the sensor. It can affect the life cycle of the infrared sensor, or it may damage the sensor. So in our daily operations, if the infrared sensor is working and facing the sunlight directly, it will be very dangerous. The strong sunlight may burn or may damage the sensor. Therefore, in the new firmware version, we have added a new function. When the sunlight shines directly to the infrared sensor, the thermal camera shutter will be closed to protect the sensor and improve the life cycle accordingly. Here is a picture shows how to enable the sunburn protection function. Customize folder is also a new function. It can support the user to create and customize folder. Next, the images, the videos taken by HDD series will be automatically stored in this folder. Of course, he can also create another folder for subsequent images and videos. Here is a demo. We can go to the camera menu and the settings and enable the create folder option, and we can input a text. So next we can create a folder. Next we can take images and record videos. All of the images and videos will be stored in this folder. Next we can create another folder. For example, folder B. Of course, now we can also take images and record videos. Now all of the videos and images will be stored in the folder B. And after the demo show, I opened the SD card and found that there are actually 2 folders, and the image taken has been stored separately. So this function is very useful to classify the images and the videos. It can improve the working experience and improve the working efficiency. It's very suitable for the power lines inspection and public safety industry. For example, when we are inspecting the power lines, we should operate the aircraft fly along with the power lines from one tower to another one. When the aircraft reach a power tower, we can create a folder, take some inspection images and videos. So all of these images and videos will be stored in this folder. Then we can go to another tower and we can create another folder for the inspection files. So after the inspection task, it will be very easy to find out which power tower the image and videos belong to. There is no need to cost too much time to search the image and videos and classify them. Another new function is optimize the split mode. As we know that H20T can support the split mode. The left side is the infrared thermal view and the right side is the visible view. However, in the old version, the right side is wide camera view. Here is a screenshot. The left side is thermal view and the right side is wide camera view. So it cannot be zoomed to check the details, check the target details. That is why we optimize this function. In the new firmware version, the left side is a thermal view, but the right side is a zoom view. So we can adjust the zooming capabilities, the zooming range to check the target details. At the same time, we can also check the target thermal information. Here is a demo video how to switch into the split mode. We just need to enable the split, and we can adjust the zooming range. At the same time, there is a green box on the left side thermal view. It indicates current zoom camera view field. This function is very useful in the search and rescue applications. Okay, this is another new function. M300 RTK can support to adapt with external mobile devices. Now we already released the mobile device holder for M300 RTK, so user can mount this holder on the remote controller and collect the external tablet with the remote controller using the USB cables. It will provide the user a better experience because the external tablet always has a bigger screen. As this picture shows, here is the remote controller and here is the holder that is already mounted on the remote controller. And here I also want to share with you some important tips. When the external mobile devices is collected with the remote controller, the built-in Pilot app of M300 RTK will not work. It will be disabled automatically by default. And the Pilot app on the external mobile devices does not support the one-click upgrade functions. That means if you want to use DJI Pilot app to upgrade the system firmware and want to use the one-click upgrade function, so please don't use the external mobile devices. Currently, GS Pro is not compatible with M300 RTK, so iPad is not suggested for you. Anyway, if you have some third-party iOS application based on DJI Mobile SDK, it should be also compatible with the iPad, and you can also be connected with the remote controller to control the aircraft and the payload. And here is an FAQ. Does DJI Smart Controller Enterprise support the Crystal Sky? Unfortunately, no, because the performance of Crystal Sky is not excellent enough. So, due to the limited processing power of Crystal Sky, it cannot support the advanced intelligent functions of M300 RTK. So, the Crystal Sky is not compatible with the M300 RTK. And we suggest you could use some third-party tablet. And here are some recommended options. For example, Samsung Galaxy Tab S6 and Xiaomi Tablet 4, and also Huawei M3, M5, and M6 is for your reference. In the new version of DJI Pilot, we have added the Tutorial Videos Academy. As this picture shows, in the home page of DJI Pilot, at the top right corner, there is a button. Just single click this button, we can go to the Academy, and we can see that there are some product videos, flight tips, industrial applications, and user manuals. This is very easy to access, and it is also very helpful when you, for example, when you are preparing a flight and encounter some problems. The first video and manual reference will help you easily and quickly find the solution and answers. And one important tips for you, it is mandatory to connect with the internet when you are using this function. Okay, till now we have introduced how to upgrade the firmware to the latest, and also introduced some new functions. But there are still some interesting functions reserved, and I will present them on next week training, including the ATTI mode, new flight mission, new waypoint function, and the optimized pinpoint function, and some important release notes. So to be continued next week. Okay, thank you, and also thanks for listening.
So is there any questions on the upgrades on the YouTube firmware of M300 RTK? Okay, on the link of the recording we will send, actually, we have and go to stage space for the recording of any other presentations for training. So I suppose you can get that from the sales representative in your region. Yes, it will include the PPT document as well. So no worry about it. Actually, you can get that link via your sales representative, and if you cannot later, our corresponding solution engineer in your region will send the PPT to the email address you have written down in the question chat box. Okay, are there any other questions on the upgrading, on the contents offered in this presentation? If there is no any other questions, so I will end this webinar. And if you have any further questions, you can raise your questions to yourselves representatives and then forward that to our technical team, and we will offer the answer corresponding to your questions. Okay, thank you.